All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me for this presentation today about resources for first-gen and low-income students at the Cohen Career Center. And also I'm going to provide a little bit of advice for navigating the job search during COVID-19. I'm Sam Nussbaum. I'm one of the graduate assistants at the Cohen Career Center for Education Careers, and I'm really glad you all are here today. So let's get started. So here's a look at what I'm hoping to accomplish today. So we're going to provide an overview of Cohen's resources. We're going to talk about networking for a little bit and then highlight our FUSE funding, which stands for Funding for Unpaid Summer Experiences, which we still have to distribute for this coming summer, and we are now accepting virtual internships for the first time. And then we'll go ahead and talk about COVID-19 and how this is going to impact internships, careers, and sort of life in general. All right, so kicking it off with the resources that are available at Cohen. These are open to all students, and everything that's posted on the website you should have access to even after you graduate. And you can still actually use the resources at the Cohen Career Center using your William & Mary username and password for up to 3 years after graduation, which is really awesome and a lot of people don't know about. So you can still actually make appointments with career advisors, access different resources like Tribe Careers and Big Interview, like I said, up to 3 years after graduation. So make sure you take advantage of those resources even after you graduate. Okay, so what I have here is just sort of a screenshot of the landing page for Cohen Career Center. If you see on the left-hand side there, you have kind of all of the tabs for different resources that we have to offer, kind of broken down in different sections. You'll see we have career exploration tools, an overview of the NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. We have their career competencies, sample resumes, cover letters, and online profiles, some advice for networking, interview resources, and then we have our job and internship databases too, information for searching for grad school, our page for graduate students, our annual events, and then funding. So today we're going to focus mostly on the exploration sort of tools, and then some resources and databases for jobs and internship searching. But I highly recommend that if you haven't already, take some time to just explore our page and see what we have to offer. There's all kinds of different resources embedded within these different pages, and there are tons of sample resources like resumes and cover letters that we even have samples of for different majors or different career industries. So like I said, I highly recommend you taking advantage of some of these resources that we have and spend some time with them. So this gives you sort of a quick overview of some of my favorite resources that we have available at the Cohen Career Center. And in the next couple of slides, I'm going to go into more detail about each one of them. And you're still more than welcome to make an appointment with me. I still have availability through the end of April, and you can do that online via Tribe Careers. And if you can't figure out how to make an appointment on there, feel free to email me. I do email and Zoom appointments. I'm happy to provide any sort of edits on a resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, anything like that. But again, if you're just kind of having a little trouble getting started or you don't even know where to start kind of navigating your career, please feel free to send me an email and I'm more than happy to help you work through this. All right, so now we're going to talk about one of my favorite career exploration resources called Focus 2. Focus 2 is a really great exploration site where you can take these different self-assessments, which are like 10 to 15-minute little quizzes about things like your personality, your values, your skills, and then taking these assessments, you can combine them in different ways that will create lists of best fit occupations. What's really great about this is then you can explore by these lists of best fit occupations for different jobs that you maybe, never even realized that you would be interested in. Sometimes the assessments are really accurate and they'll pull up really interesting jobs for people, and sometimes they're not as accurate, but it's still a really great resource to learn a little bit more about the different careers that are out there. Focus 2 also has some career planning guides, which will help you if you haven't selected a major yet, but you're interested maybe in a specific career. It'll kind of help guide you to pick a major that will pair nicely with that career or maybe that industry. You can also search for jobs by job family, and you can even look at a list of majors that are offered at William & Mary and then what careers people with those majors typically pursue. What I really like about Focus 2 is that they have super detailed job descriptions, which are really helpful. They kind of go over the different education requirements for specific jobs, what sort of skills and values people have that make them really successful in different roles. And then it'll also provide you with like a great salary calculator, a job outlook to see if there's going to be growth in that field anytime soon, and other helpful information. Focus 2 is a really great resource for people that, haven't maybe chosen a major yet, but also it's really great if you have a major or you're graduating and you're still not 100% sure of the different kind of jobs that you would like. There's a lot of information on Focus 2, and I would highly recommend following this link that's in the first bullet point and checking it out and learning a little bit more about what's out there. All right, so next we're going to talk a little bit about Tribe Careers, which is the portal for all things happening at Cohen. It's a great place to find different events that are going on, which can include things like our employer info sessions, career fairs, jobs, internships, and a lot more. Some of our smaller events, our workshops, are things like crash courses for resumes, cover letters, virtual interviewing, stuff like that. And then we have our employer info sessions, which are typically when an external employer will come onto campus and talk through things like how to make your application stand out in their organization, or tips for being successful in their interview process, things like that. We host our larger career and internship fairs in the spring and in the fall. Typically, those are in like mid-September and then late January, early February, sort of depending on timing. And then Tribe Careers also has a portal for job and internship searching, which is really helpful. What's great about Tribe Careers is that the people that are searching for jobs and have jobs posted on Tribe Careers are specifically looking for William & Mary students. So typically that means we have some sort of alumni connection, or the employer's just really interested in selecting a high quality candidate, which is why they're searching at William & Mary. So it's just kind of nice to know in the back of your mind that you already sort of have that connection and that the company is specifically looking for William & Mary students. Tribe Careers is also a really great resource to sign up for our industry newsletters, and we have the different options listed there below. And next we're going to kind of take you through how you can sign up for these and get a look at what Tribe Careers actually looks like. So I wanted to share this screenshot with you all just so that way you could get a sense of what Tribe Careers actually looks like if you've never logged on before. So after you log in using your William & Mary username and password, you'll kind of see that it looks just like this screen. On the left, we have our navigation tools, and then the What's New section sort of ties in any sort of new job postings or something like that. Our upcoming events are a really great way to keep track of what's happening at the Career Center, maybe if there's an employer that you're interested in seeing. And then it kind of pulls different jobs that you might be interested in. So the more that you use Tribe Careers, the way that its like algorithms work, or that it like compares itself to Netflix, so that way like the more you use it, the more customized it will become to you, which is definitely helpful. So this is kind of a nice way to visualize like what Tribe Careers actually looks like. So I just wanted to show you all very quickly how to access those newsletters that I had mentioned earlier. So what you'll do is on the landing page, all the way on the left, if you scroll down to the bottom and click My Account and then Academic, and then scroll again almost all the way down to the bottom, you'll see this Industry Newsletters section. And you can click as many different newsletters as you'd like to have. These are sort of our industry-specific ones where we'll post helpful industry information, jobs, internships, all kinds of great stuff. And we are actually, for the first time, going to continue, hopefully, these newsletters through the summer, which will be very helpful considering that, our time on campus got cut a little bit short this semester, and it'll be a great way to kind of stay up to date on things that are happening in your industry. So if you have not signed up for an industry newsletter, I highly recommend that you do. And if you aren't receiving them, and you're signed up for them, try checking in your other settings. Sometimes people have a setting clicked where they don't want to receive any emails from the Cohen Career Center, and then when we send out these industry newsletters, your email will get skipped over. So if you have signed up for the newsletters and you're not getting them, try and double check your settings, and maybe you just have our emails blocked. All right, so now I wanted to share with you all one of my favorite resources that's available to you, which is Idealist. And Idealist is a really great resource if you're interested in a career in anything sort of remotely related to social and human services. I tend to find that the opportunities that are posted on Idealist are typically related to like public service, education, nonprofit, public health, community development, advocacy work, anything that's sort of remotely tied to that, you'll definitely find on Idealist. They have a couple of new tools that I find really helpful. They have a new graduate search section, which is definitely helpful if you are interested in pursuing graduate school. They also have a really great career blog, which I often will pull articles from to put in my own newsletter because I write the Education and Human Services newsletter for Cohen. And they've posted a lot of really helpful information for how to job search during COVID-19. So if you are in the job search stage, I would highly recommend checking it out just for the career blogs. Another thing that I do want to add about Idealist is that they also do a really great job of pulling remote opportunities. So even now, while we're kind of stuck working from home, Idealist still has several opportunities that are for like remote internships and remote jobs, and most of them are also paid, which is fantastic. So if you are still looking for something to do over the summer, I would highly recommend checking out Idealist, playing with their different filters, and searching for some remote opportunities. It's a really great source of information. All right, so now we're going to talk about one of my other favorite resources, which is Big Interview. Big Interview is an interview preparation tool, and it's a really fantastic resource for preparing you not only for regular interviews, but especially for virtual interviews, which I feel like are going to be much more common given our current circumstances. So now is a really great time to sort of practice your interviewing skills. What I like about Big Interview is that you can follow some of their like pre-prepared like courses that will help you create answers, or you can just jump in and utilize any of their practice sets. So they even have them broken down by specific industry or job, even by like competency or skill set. And then they have different interviewers that maybe are nicer and challenging and then tough. And sometimes it's just nice to prepare yourself for any sort of interview situation. One thing that I find really helpful about Big Interview is that it allows you to actually record yourself answering a question, and then you can play it back to figure out if you have, maybe any sort of nervous tick, and even just more generally to see how you come across on camera. So while it is definitely a little uncomfortable watching yourself answer questions, I can personally say that it has helped me with my virtual interviewing skills, and I would definitely recommend taking some time to use this. Even if you just kind of go through their general like top 10 questions or maybe their entry-level positions, it will definitely help just get you in the mindset of what kind of questions will be asked of you during an interview, and then how you can formulate answers. And you should have access to Big Interview, like I said earlier, like up to 3 years after you graduate, which is fantastic. So even if you get into your first job and then decide to change not too much later, you'll still have access to Big Interview. All right, so I hope you enjoyed a brief overview of some of the resources that I find really helpful, and I definitely recommend you following the links that I have attached here and checking out some of these resources on your own time. Next, we're going to talk a little bit more about networking and exactly, what that means and how you do it and what it looks like in the time of COVID-19. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about networking. At its core, networking is really about making connections. So networking is making sure that you are connecting with people and exchanging information on a professional basis. So that way the people that are sort of part of your network are aware of what kind of opportunities that you're interested in and will hopefully, advocate for you if they have the opportunity to do so. Networking is obviously not exploitative, and we're going to go over a couple of different ways that you can interact with people who you want to be part of your network, and making sure you do that in a professional manner so that way it doesn't come off like exploitative or anything like that. And just a friendly reminder is that you're probably already networking more than you think you are. Figly is definitely a part of your network. I know for a fact that I would be more than happy to help connect you to people or advocate for you in any way that I can, and I'm sure that the other ambassadors and graduate advisors would be as well. All right, so I hope somebody appreciates my Schitt's Creek reference here. David Rose is definitely my favorite character on the show, and if you have not seen it, I would highly recommend. But what I really appreciate about this graphic that's over here on the right-hand side is that it kind of gives a nice visual representation of those who are going to be like most invested in your success. So what really networking is about is understanding who you already have in your network and then taking time to consciously expand it. So thinking about your parents, your family members and friends, thinking about who they know and then who those people may know. And people in your network can include people like professors and campus staff. So our faculty advisor, Dane Pasco, who works in academic advising, is a huge advocate for first-gen and low-income students, as is Lauren Garrett, who's the director of first-year experience. So there are definitely people on this campus who will be more than happy to advocate for you, and it's just about intentionally making contacts in these fields so that they can kind of help you further your own career. So I know some people are a little intimidated by LinkedIn, but I promise it's definitely not scary. LinkedIn is a really fantastic way to expand your own network, sort of see what's happening in your chosen industry, learn more about what organizations are doing day to day, and just generally a great way to expand your online brand. It's really nice. We see it more and more that employers will just, when they're selecting people to interview, they'll put the candidate's name into Google. So it's really nice if the first thing that pops up is your LinkedIn page, which would be very professional, highlights all of your skills and experiences, and just sort of showcases, your professionalism. So definitely important to take time to make one. It's a great summer project to sort of work on, and you can still make appointments with the Career Center over the summer to help sort of fine-tune your profile and maximize it. LinkedIn is also a fantastic way to connect with more people than you would typically meet on a day-to-day basis, especially alumni. We have a huge alumni base on LinkedIn, which is fantastic, and they can definitely help connect you to different resources or different people to help you learn more about your industry and what you can do after you graduate. All right, so if you have not already created a LinkedIn account, I would highly recommend taking the time to do that at some point. And what's really nice is that LinkedIn now walks you through how to set up your profile and will help you achieve this, what they call all-star status. And basically that means that you've just kind of fulfilled the basic requirements of putting together a profile, having things like a profile picture and a cover photo, and then adding in some of your skills and experiences. Like I said, LinkedIn does a really great job of sort of walking you through this, and then I can highly recommend meeting up with a career advisor at some point to sort of fine-tune some of the details. Make sure your profile picture is professional, should just be a headshot of you. I think you'll find that a lot of people at William & Mary will just kind of go ahead and stand against the Wren building or something like that and then have their friend with like a nice camera just take a quick picture of, the upper part of their body. It's pretty common. And then your banner or like cover photo should be something that sort of like symbolizes your personal brand. For a lot of people at William & Mary, that is just a picture of the Wren building, which is totally fine because you are a student. But you can feel free to use anything else, if you feel that more accurately reflects you. Like if you have interests in like a creative career and you are really comfortable with designing something or something like that. What I really like about LinkedIn is that it gives you a lot of flexibilities to sort of create like an online resume. So you can upload things like different presentations that you've given, whether it be like for a class or maybe an outside project. And it even lets you upload like videos or pictures or something like that if an experience, just isn't fully captured by a couple of bullet points on your resume. You can also choose to add in different awards, languages, accomplishments. There are tons of different features on LinkedIn. And I would also highly recommend, if you can, to request somebody to give you some recommendations because those will also show up on your profile, which employers are definitely going to want to see. There are also 2 networking groups that are going to be really critical to join. One of those is called the William & Mary Network. And then the other one is called the William & Mary Alumni Network. Each of them have, I think, over 10,000 people in each group, and those will just kind of help you get connected to more people in the field. I would highly recommend you also follow a couple of different organizations that you're interested in, and those can be really broad, anything ranging from like museums that you are interested in, or maybe like different companies or organizations that you'd like to work for. It'll just kind of keep your feed a little bit more interesting and just show that you're engaged. And other than that, like I said, I would highly recommend setting up an appointment with a career advisor if you have any questions about your LinkedIn or how to maximize your usage of it. We'd be more than happy to help you. So what I love about LinkedIn is that it really sets you up really well to then connect with alumni further and ask for what we like to call it the Career Center informational interviews, which sound really intimidating, but it's really just about asking for guidance or asking for directions. One way that my supervisor framed it to me was that if a junior or a senior in high school came up to you and said, "Wow, oh my gosh, you go to William and Mary. What's that been like for you? How's your experience been there?" You would obviously be more than happy to share your experience with that student. And that's the same way that our alumni feel about connecting with current students. I know a lot of alumni, especially younger ones, who are definitely more active on LinkedIn, can definitely empathize with, the stress that can kind of be around choosing a career and finding a job after graduation. And especially now in this uncertain time, I know that our alumni base is really strong and really trying to do what they can to help the class of 2020. So this example on the right here sort of lays out really nicely, the intent for asking an alum for some advice, right? So it kind of just opens up with like a brief introduction, asks for some information about a specific field, and then, that last paragraph where they just, requesting a quick phone call just to learn some more information. It's really short and sweet and to the point. It's not asking for too much from the alum, like we had talked about earlier. It's definitely not manipulative in any way. It's really just asking for some guidance. And, the worst thing that someone can do is like ignore your message or just say, "Oh, I'm too busy at this time, sorry," which is definitely fine and understandable. This is a very rapidly changing time for a lot of people. So, it's not always going to work out perfectly, but definitely worth a shot. I hope you found the brief overview of networking helpful. Definitely some good tips on how to get started. And if you ever have any questions, or maybe you'd like some clarity on, how to best use LinkedIn, or maybe perhaps you'd like some help tweaking a message before you send it off to an alum for an informational interview, please feel free to reach out to the Cohen Career Center. We do a lot of appointments by email that are just, like a student will send like a quick quip of a message and say like, "Oh, is this okay for me to send off to an alum?" And we'll provide some feedback, if it's necessary. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to the Cohen Career Center. We're here for you. We're happy to help. And now we're going to talk about the different funding opportunities that are available through Cohen. Right now, I'm just going to primarily focus on our FUSE funding, which is our funding for unpaid summer experiences. And while we also have funding for different Cohen-sponsored trips, all of that has been halted right now because obviously of our school travel restrictions. But if you have any questions about that, definitely feel free to reach out to anybody at the Career Center. I would be happy to answer any questions that I can, and we'll get started. So at the Cohen Career Center, you can find funding for two major things, and that would be our summer internship fund and then our travel funds, which are available to help cover the costs of travel related to Cohen-sponsored trips and events. So we have a Wall Street trek, typically a creative careers trek to New York, and a couple of other trips throughout the academic year. However, because we have travel restrictions in place for right now, I'm just going to focus on the funding for unpaid summer experiences, that FUSE funding that I had mentioned earlier. But if you have any questions about those travel funds, definitely feel free to reach out to me or anyone else at Cohen, and we'll be happy to talk more about those. I just wanted to make sure that we stayed focused on what's available currently. So again, this is our landing page. Once you Google Cohen Career Center and then click Students, you'll find on that left-hand navigation sort of section, all the way down at the bottom is our funding page. So you can just go ahead and click that, and it will pull you to the next slide. And then once you click on the funding tab, you'll see it takes you directly to the two sources of funding. So our travel funds and then the funding for unpaid summer experiences, FUSE funding. Fuse funding we give out every year. It's to help fund any costs related to an unpaid summer internship or volunteer experience. And it's not meant to cover lost wages. It's meant to cover things like your housing, paying for groceries. Some students will actually just fill out Fuse funding to get a Metro card for the summer, if they're like living at home, different sort of costs like that. So then looking more closely at the Fuse page on our website, you'll be able to see the budget template, which can be downloaded from the website. Basically has different areas that you can fill in based on, the different funding requirements that you'll have for the summer. So like rent, groceries, utilities, travel, if you need an airline ticket or a public transit card, something like that. And then the other part of the application is a statement of purpose. So, why you're interested in this particular internship and how the funding is going to help further your career, which is pretty general. And then you can also check out our website for more details based on the different funds that are sort of overseen both by the Cohen Career Center and with our campus partners. So you can learn a little bit more about some of the requirements for those. Unfortunately, I am actually part of the review committee for this year, so I can't help put together your application materials, so your budget or your statement of purpose, but most of our other career advisors would be more than happy to help you with that, to set up an appointment to talk further about that. So I wanted to share some additional information about Fuse funding that I think will be helpful for you all. Typically, the application opens around mid-March and then closes around mid-April, although given the current circumstances, a lot of internship sites have actually extended their deadlines, so we've extended ours as well to the end of the month. Again, this is specifically to cover costs related to unpaid internships like housing, food, things like that, and not to cover lost wages. There's a budget model available on our website where you can request up to $4,000, as well as get some help on the statement of purpose. Additionally, do keep in mind that this is a pretty competitive application process, and if you have some time to go over your application materials with a career advisor, I would highly recommend that you take the time to do that. And unfortunately, even though a lot of internships have actually moved virtually for the summer, we will not be able to provide funding for remote internships. It's part of some of our budget restrictions, and we're just not actually allowed to distribute funding for that. But again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me or our internship coordinator. So here's a quick overview of some of the eligibility and restriction requirements surrounding Fuse funding. First, like I had mentioned earlier, you have to secure the internship before you apply to the funding, and that's to make sure that somebody doesn't receive Fuse funding and then actually doesn't end up taking the internship, meaning that they've taken away funding from another student. Also, a lot of these different pools of money, with the exception of the Reeves Fund, are limited only to undergraduate students. And then some of them also have specific requirements based on major or perhaps industry, and most of them are not eligible for graduating seniors. At this time, we are also actually making another change, which is that we're not going to be funding any sort of international internships because of the college's travel restrictions. So legally, we are not allowed to fund any sort of international travel, which is obviously for the health and safety of all of our students. If you have any more questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other career advisors. We'd be more than happy to help sort of talk through the funding and explain sort of the different restrictions around it and what you can apply for, what you can't apply for. Finally, just a quick reminder on how to actually submit your materials. What you'll do is log on to Tribe Careers, go to Jobs, and then Search. And then once you get to that page, you'll then filter by the position type, and you'll see Fuse funding as part of the drop-down menu. Select that, and then you'll just apply through there. There's a little button that will say apply for this, and then you'll just click that and submit your application materials. And if you need any more information or help with your application, you're welcome to drop into our virtual quick advising hours, which are Monday through Thursday from 2 to 4. The link for that Zoom meeting will be in any of the communications that you've gotten from Cohen, so in any of our newsletters, or you'll also be able to find it in Tribe Careers. And if you have any other issues, you can feel free to contact our Fuse program manager, Lisa Randolph, and her email is right there. All right, so finally, I want to talk to you all about COVID-19 and how this is sort of impacting the world of job searching. So, as of right now, things are still changing very quickly, almost day to day, week to week, and there's a lot of uncertainty really from all ends. So, the employer side as well as the student side. Many employers are trying to adjust quickly to all of these different changes and are exploring some options like virtual onboarding, so delaying the start dates for some people and doing some more of like the orientation type work remotely so people can stay home and follow the stay-at-home orders that the state has mandated. And also, some are even transitioning some positions and especially internships to completely remote opportunities. And I think a lot of the issues surrounding this are that, employers have had to make this change so quickly. So a lot of things have just been delayed. So, an internship that typically would have started at the end of May, beginning of June, may now just be shortened and start at the end of June and just run a little bit shorter than normal. Like I said, so many things are changing so quickly and that we're learning new information almost daily. It's also really important to just kind of keep in mind that so many of these things are really beyond your control and that you really just have to focus on what you can control. So making sure that you utilize Cohen's resources so that, you're well prepared if an internship or a job opportunity comes up really quickly. That way, you don't have to spend time tweaking or maybe even creating a whole resume or writing a really great cover letter. That way you'll have those documents ready to go. Your interview skills will be nice and polished, different things like that. So really kind of focus on what you can control for right now. So something that I kind of like to share is the data that comes out from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And this is fully accessible for free online. It's one of the first things that pops up if you just kind of Google NACE. And it's just their quick poll results. They do these results every Friday, so this is the most recent information that I could find, and it sort of breaks it down by a bunch of different poll questions that they asked. So right now, what it's looking like is that, over or almost 2/3 of employers have not revoked any sort of offers. Looks like about 20% are still under consideration. Some places have revoked their internships and not their full-time recruits. And some have less than 2% really have pulled both. So like I said, things are still changing. The number has come down a little bit, but it still looks pretty strong in that they're trying not to revoke offers and rather just trying to come up with creative solutions as to how they can make these opportunities remote. So definitely staying positive is good at this time in the sense that there are still opportunities that are out there. So here's some more NACE data that's referring specifically to internships. As you can see, a little over 1/3 of respondents moved their entire internship program virtually. Some have either chosen to reduce the length of their internship by just delaying the start date, and some haven't made any changes at all. I'm sure those organizations are hoping that by midsummer we'll have all of the current health concerns under control and they'll be able to continue on with their internship program as normal. And as you can see, others have just changed online events and either, reduced the number of interns altogether in order to kind of combat this current circumstance. I think what's most helpful is just having solid data on what's happening career-wise. I think, the uncertainty just makes everything more stressful. So hopefully these numbers are at least just, give you a better sense of what's actually happening. Also important to remember that, up here it says N equals 217, meaning that this is only a survey of 217 organizations, and of course a lot more than that have internship opportunities. So I think there's definitely still hope out there if you're looking for some sort of summer experience, and that you can still have a really impactful experience even if it's virtual. So if you want any help searching for different internship opportunities, please feel free to reach out to any of the career advisors at the Cohen Career Center, and we'd be more than happy to help you. Finally, I just wanted to close with a quick note about future recruiting. So this final poll was about, whether or not organizations will be recruiting the class of 2021 the same way that they recruited the class of 2020. And it looks generally pretty positive, that they'll still be intending to come to things like career fairs, different workshops, and info sessions on college campuses. Few have still not decided, but overall it looks pretty positive in that they'll still be recruiting at those same levels. So maybe any sophomores or juniors that are a little concerned about how COVID-19 might be impacting their ability to connect with employers in the coming year, looks pretty positive so far. So definitely something to look forward to, I suppose. So I wanted to follow up on something that I had mentioned earlier, and that's focusing on what you can control right now during this uncertain time. And that would be things like networking. Now's a really great time to build your network and connect with people. I'm sure that a lot of alumni are really thinking about the class of 2020 right now and how stressful it must be trying to graduate and find a job in this economic climate. So now's a really great time to connect with those people and hopefully learn more about what's happening in your industry and what the job prospects are looking like. Another thing that you can do is that if you are searching for jobs to apply for, focus on ones that have been posted after mid-March. And what that might help you do is that if a job was posted after mid-March, which is typically when, COVID-19 really saw a steep rise here in the US, it means that that organization probably has approval to continue hiring and they're not on a hiring freeze. So pay attention to the date that jobs were posted, and that's probably going to be helpful. Another thing that you can do is look for remote opportunities. A lot of companies are sort of looking for ways that they can get work done remotely. Idealist is a really great place to look for remote opportunities, as well as muse.com will be helpful. There's also a really great guide for graduating in the time of COVID-19, and I'll be sure if you're interested in that guide. For some reason, I could not attach it to this PowerPoint, so feel free to email me and I'll be sure to send you the PDF form. Another thing that you can do is expand your job search. And by that, I'm thinking of looking outside of industries or positions that you may have traditionally thought of that would be interesting for you, and just look a little bit broader. And that might help pull in some new job opportunities. And if you're unsure of how to do that, again, connecting with a career advisor is definitely going to help you. Here are just some other tips that maybe will help get you through this time, at least through the end of graduation. For right now, really just take some time to prioritize your mental health and self-care. The stress and uncertainty that the last month or so has brought has definitely taken a toll on my own mental health, and it's definitely important to remember that so much is beyond your control, and you just kind of have to do what you can. If you haven't, make sure that your resume is polished and ready to go, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier. If you have not already, make sure you create a LinkedIn, and just kind of begin making connections and checking up on, different key players in the industry that you're interested in and figuring out, how they're handling the COVID-19 crisis. And definitely utilize the Cohen Career Center. We're here to help you, and we're definitely trying to ramp up our advising availability and connecting students with as many resources as we can during this time. So we have appointments available. Please make sure you reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you. So here's some more information and things that you can sort of look towards for the next, near future. If you have the ability, now is a great time to learn a new skill or maybe expand on some existing knowledge that you have using LinkedIn Learning. William & Mary students actually have a free subscription to LinkedIn Learning. I think it's available through SWEM Library. You'll just go to their research databases and then you should be able to find it directly from there. And it gives you access to all kinds of different classes that are taught on LinkedIn. I know personally I really need to brush up on my Excel. It's definitely something that could use some improvement. It's a really great way to just kind of tweak your skills a little bit, and then you'll get certification badges on your actual LinkedIn profile, which is definitely helpful and again highlights skills that employers are looking for. As mentioned earlier, I would highly recommend checking out Big Interview and just brushing up on your interviewing skills. So that way, if you've applied for things in the past and, maybe your actual hiring has been delayed and then all of a sudden, you get asked to do an interview and they need you to do it really quickly. That way your interview skills will be nice and polished. Cohen has also done a series of employer chats that come through in our newsletters. So again, if you haven't signed up for those, make sure you do. And then now's a really great time too to set some goals for yourself, especially after graduation, when things will probably quiet down class-wise. It would be a really great time to set up an appointment with a career advisor, and we can help you set some realistic goals for yourself, especially if you are trying to find a job or an internship before the end of this summer. So here are some things that you can look to in the future if maybe your job or internship timeline has been delayed a little bit. It's a good time to think about the skills that you have and how you can use them to earn money in a virtual gig economy. If you speak a second language, there are definitely translating jobs available. And if you're interested in the medical field at all, you can do virtual scribing, which is really cool, through this organization called ScribeKick. And then there's always different freelancing work available, whether that's writing, editing, photography, things like that. Especially if you have any sort of creative skills in Photoshop or Adobe, you can definitely use those skills to help earn some money. So hopefully those job links will work and you'll be able to access those resources. If you're not looking for a job right now, it's a great time to build your network or maybe invest in some lifelong learning. Harvard is actually offering a ton of free online classes, so it's a really great time to invest in learning something new, especially if that is something that will keep you motivated and focused throughout the summer. It's also really important to understand that a recession will likely have financial impacts on your career for long after the economy even recovers. A lot of times what will happen is that students who graduate in an economic recession will actually earn lower starting salaries, which will then translate into a lower salary for the rest of your life. So it's really important to learn how to negotiate for the highest salary possible for your first job and doing other things like making a realistic budget for yourself. Salary negotiation is really complicated and is definitely going to require some work with the career advisor to help you understand the skills that are required to have a successful salary negotiation, especially understanding the circumstances of this particular moment in history too. I would highly recommend reaching out to somebody to get some tips on how you can make a salary negotiation work for you. All right, and I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you found some of this information helpful, and I really hope that you are going to be able to take advantage of the resources that the Cohen Career Center has to offer. We're going to be here for you throughout the summer, like I mentioned earlier, putting out our newsletters and working with employers. You can always make an appointment online at Tribe Careers, as well as reach out to us directly via email. All of the staff emails are listed on Cohen's main website. You can also feel free to reach out to me. That CSGA email down at the bottom is actually my work email, which I will stop checking here at the end of April because I will also be graduating. But please feel free to reach out to me at the other email address. That's my student email, and I'm more than happy to help work through a resume with you, check out a cover letter, work on LinkedIn, or just kind of answer any questions that you have in general. I'm more than happy to help you, and I hope that everyone stays well. Thanks.